Hey everybody, John Olson here. I'm at the Einbock dealership. This here is the #1 tech in America.
That's me, August.
August, he's a really informative guy. He knows everything you could ever hope to know about the Einbock chopstar, as well as the attachment that goes with it, the rowguard. This is what everybody wants to know. This is what everybody wants to see. And what we're going to do here today is we're just going to kind of showcase a little bit, or I guess you could call it an unboxing of the chopstar, if you want to call it an unboxing or not, I don't know. But so Augie, what do you got for us here, man?
So what we have here, this is everything that you'll receive when you purchase a chopstar with an attached row guard. You'll receive a box that has a 3-pin adapter cable to make the power source adaptable to US tractors. You'll receive a box with your camera, which is your baby. And you'll receive a box with a monitor and the wiring harness, the half of which goes in the tractor.
Perfect.
So
perfect. And we have a few other accessories set out around here too, to showcase kind of what we're doing. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen everything that comes. Oops, I'm pointing you way off the Thule. Sorry. I'm sure you guys have seen all the accessories, but there are, just so you do know, to touch and reiterate it again, there's a limited, or not limited, but limitless lineup of different accessories that you can get for these things. They're truly, you can form them to any row you want, as big as you want, down to about 10 inches is about as narrow as you probably want to go with these. But yeah, so I'm just moving that out of the way, and Augie's going to show us some of the parts that come with it again, I guess.
Alright, so you'll receive a box with these 2 items and your 3-pin adapter. So, the first thing you'll really need to do...
Here's that pin adapter. Sorry, I'm cutting in front of you. Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we had lots of people before those 3-pin adapters didn't come standard. So we had people wiring in their own plugs. We decided we shouldn't make people do that, so Einbock now sends those standard.
Perfect.
When you receive your unit, on your return line, your hydraulic line's right here, this braided cover, it'll come with a female end on it, like this. Now this is supposed to go to a free-flowing return or directly into your case drain. That's a requirement of the unit. But they will send a male unit that I've already mounted here with an attached check valve. And we typically remove the check valve because we find that sometimes they can be too sensitive.
Okay.
So.
But you're still getting that check valve.
Yeah, you're getting it no matter what. Most people don't have issues with it, but sometimes it's just a little too sensitive. But I will reiterate, a free-flowing return is a listed requirement of the row guard.
So you're going to want to have a return going right into the tank on your tractor.
You want it to dump right in. This baby can't have pressure going both ways.
Write that down.
You'll hook up your hydraulics, and you can tell which ones are for the row guard as opposed to which ones are for folding the machine, simply because they're braided. They come all together in a harness like this.
And we're just hooking this up to a little shop-powered hydraulic deal. But yeah, so just in case you're wondering, to see on the other side, what he's hooking up to is the actual row guard right now. This is the side shift mechanism that will be giving all of us farmers out there our competitive advantage over those weeds. Sorry, Augie.
It's okay.
Pulling things away
Absolutely.
from me again.
And yeah, this is my tractor. You know, we're basically making it work on the bench today.
So, Augie, does your tractor have a name?
No, I suppose Bessie.
Bessie?
Bessie sounds good to me.
Old Blue Bessie here is going to fire up in a second, and
yeah.
we're going to see what we can do.
All right. So as you can see, it'll come mounted with, this is where your camera is mounted. And it has a cable that connects down all the way over here. And it'll connect to the actual row guard unit here. So if you ever need to remove the unit, you need to detach the attached camera cable here, as well as the speed sensor cable. There's this cable will run down to that middle wheel where there's a speed sensor, and that's a necessary, just so the row guard can tell when you're moving.
Here, so see that little black cable right there? It goes down to the ground, and what Augie's talking about here is coming down below that depth gauge. You can see a little black thing right there. That's telling you, that's communicating with this thing, telling you how fast you're going on the ground. And that helps you get your side shift mechanism dialed in to the right, left, right, associated with your forward speed.
And it's partly a safety feature so that, you know, if you're not actually moving, the row guard won't keep trying to find a row. And a lot of it has to do with just adaptability. You know, the faster you go, the faster the row guard wants to operate. It operates in tandem with the speed you're going. So the speed sensors, you know, it's important. But if you ever do want to remove the row guard or attach the row guard, you just have to remember these cables are already tied down. Now this is your baby. This is the actual camera. And the thing that's special about this is that most of the brain of the row guard system actually exists within this camera itself. The monitor is basically merely an interface. This is everything.
Nice.
You know, you want to keep it clean, you want to keep it happy. You know.
We're running a joke in here the other day. If you've ever seen the movie Johnny Five, it looks kind of like they chopped his head off and stuck it up here. But hey, you know what? Do what you got to do to make things work, right?
Yeah, Johnny Five's not alive. Not yet. So you'll see there's this little rail that goes into this profile tube. You just have to line it up there. And it'll slide in. Now the height and angle at which you set it are going to become important. But for now, I'm just going to show you how to attach this. These handles act as ratchets. You pull them out and you turn them to tighten them, or you turn them to loosen them. So they act as ratchets. So when you first mount the camera, you just want to get it on there good and tight. The height will become important later, but for now I just like to get it mounted.
So yeah, I'll wait till he's done. You don't get in the way of the #1 tech in America, guys. You just stand back, watch and listen and learn.
All right.
So what he was talking about was these little ratchets. They pop in and out. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that, how they're going. So handheld ratchet built in.
Yeah, and you can also use an Allen wrench if that's not your thing, but
Okay,
the ratchet makes it convenient. And inside of the camera case will come this end of the camera cable. Anytime the camera goes on or off, this cable goes on or off. This remains mounted, and anytime you remove the camera, you want to put that nifty cover back on there. It's important with every connection on the row guard, be it the speed sensor, the camera cable, the 16-pin connector I'll show you in a minute. It's really important that you keep those connections clean, you keep them tight, you check them every so often.
It may sound like a lot, but really it's only a couple wires and some hydraulic hoses.
Well, it is one of the beauty of these things. When I first started working on these things, I was very intimidated, to be honest. It seemed like it would be a heck of a lot more to worry about than it was. And when you're putting these in, you just got to be careful. You know, they're not the most delicate things in the world, but you don't want to jam them in there. Make sure they're nice and lined up. Don't want to cross-thread that baby.
So blue on the bottom, black on top.
Yes, sir. And you want them to be fairly tight, but you don't need to wrench it all the way down. These things are designed to be mostly waterproof. However, the camera, this unit itself, it's not designed to be really left out every night or be left on for transport. That's why they try to make it as easy as possible to pull on and off.
Which as you guys saw, that took, what, 2 seconds? Super easy.
Pretty easy.
If the #1 tech in America can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely. So this is your second case, your briefcase. Kind of looks like a spy briefcase. Now this has your wiring harness. And this looks like a heck of a lot bigger deal than it is. I'll explain what all these things do here in a second. Here's your monitor. And this is the actual interface. This is what you'll use to interact with the row guard. This is how you'll put in all of the settings you need to do. Troubleshoot if necessary. This is just how you communicate with the row guard. And something I like to stress is that all of these things working together, the tilt shift frame, the speed sensor, the camera, the monitor, all of it is the row guard. You kind of have to think about it all together as a system. All of these things need to be in place for it to work, you know? Some people think of the row guard as simply this and the tilt shift frame as something else. All together, it's a system.
Yeah.
So you'd take your monitor here and you'd mount it. We won't be doing that today, but you'd mount it in your tractor. and you come down here to your wiring harness. And the first thing you're going to want to hook up is this big 16-pin connector. This is, you know, the main artery of information for the row guard. The other end will be coming out of the same harness as your return cable.
Okay, so yeah, these cables here are going to be coming out of your tractor, and this is just like hooking up a baler, almost anything else, just putting them together.
Which again, just like everything else, all of the connections are important, but you really want to make sure that this connection stays clean, stays as dry as possible.
Boom, done.
Next, inside of your tractor, this will be your power cable. And as you can see, a lot of your tractor's power cables probably don't look like that. That's where the 3-pin adapter comes in. Simply attach that there.
That looks a little bit more familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, today, because we're bench testing, little American ingenuity, I'm going to hook this thing up to a car battery. That's right, you can't fry the row guard.
Yeah, so that's like Augie was saying, you can't fry the row guard. It's really nice. It has built-in redundancies to protect it from, say you hooked it up, your positive wires to your negative wires. It's got things built into it to protect it from frying itself. I mean, fuses, and other than that, it just won't work. Safety first, people.
Yes, sir. Then you might notice this purple cable. This is for optional xenon light kit, which we won't be demonstrating that today, but it'd be simple. Once you mounted your lights, there'd be a wire that would come into the cab and connect there. And that way, yeah, you'd be able to switch it on and off with the monitor. This cable here is for an optional video monitor, which allows you to see what the camera sees. Not always necessary, but sometimes nice. And this is what you use to actually hook up the monitor itself.
One of the nice things about having a camera system set up looking forward is that you can put a camera down low, and let's say, for example, you do run into a spot where your stand didn't come up or something like that. There's an option on this that you can hit back to center, and if you need to, you can drive the old-fashioned way right down the row until your rows come back up again. And it's just an added option that we hope we don't have to have happen, but I guarantee everybody out there has a skip in their field somewhere. So Einbock has done a good job taking a step ahead and thinking about that.
All right, so if you have your power hooked up correctly, you have your camera hooked up, your speed sensors hooked up, you have your 16-pin connector, you have your hydraulics hooked up and your monitor hooked up, you should be able to press start. Let me flip the power.
Yep, see, like right there we had it in backwards. Oops.
It'll be okay.
And it's okay. Ha, look at that.
So there's your startup screen.
Okay.
So this will be the first thing that you have to interact with. When you see this, it's basically just saying, I understand that I'm starting something that could potentially be dangerous and I need to stay out of the area of when it's moving. So you'll see on either side of each menu, this up at the top, it shows you which menu you're in, highlighted in black. And on either side, you see these green squares that correlate to a button.
Okay.
So you'll have to press the button that correlates with OK. And there you are in your home screen. So just a little tour of the home screen. This simply tells you whether you're set off to the left or the right. This here allows you to set an offset or a dual offset. These buttons here allow you to manually shift the row guard when it's not automatically being operated. And these are just little, they kind of just tell you what's going on. You know, this is your third link sensor, so when you raise or lower your implement, it can tell whether or not it's being raised or lowered.
And that sensor on the implement is right there.
So, you've just got everything hooked up. what you're going to need to do is these two buttons here remain constant through every menu. They help you cycle.
Now, which two buttons? The two bottom ones here?
The two bottom ones on either side.
Okay, and if you look close, you can see kind of an arrow down there on the two bottom ones. That's associating for left page, right page.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes, sir. And you just use those to cycle from menu to menu, whichever one you're in highlighted at the top. That's a special menu for technicians only. You got to put in a secret code.
Or your name has to be Age.
Yeah. Okay, so here's where you're going to need to enter in the parameters of your field. The row guard is kind of like a really good employee that you need to give very specific instructions to. I don't know if you've ever had an employee like that. They do a great job, but you really need to tell them exactly what to do. Luckily, there's only like 6 things you have to tell the row guard to do. So, first of all, this is for a single plant row. And here is where you would set your row spacing, your row or your plant width, your plant height, and the number of rows you'd like to look at, which I'll explain a little more about that in a second. Now, if you have multiple plant rows, you can press these two buttons here, and it'll bring you to an option for multiple rows.
And the other thing Augie's doing here, guys, to kind of help navigate this thing, and he's probably getting tired of me because I got this camera in his face the whole time, but he's doing really good. So if you ever make a comment, you got to give him a big thumbs up. But this here is a roller that helps you go through the menus, and it actually pushes in, like into the machine to select. So it's something that if you see something move or change, that's what we're doing. We're dialing that knob around a little bit.
It's basically like your mouse, and you click it in just like a mouse. So let's say, yeah, you have really odd row spacing, so, 21 inches.
So he's on, which one are you on now, the row spacing?
Yeah.
So as he's dialing that thing around, it's changing the numbers. Can you see that, guys? 10, 13, 16, 19, 22. So that's just what's going on with that deal. That's how you adjust the fine tuning.
Yeah. If you need to change your row spacing, you just click it once. The dial will allow you to change it where you need to. And you click it and it moves on. Then you just turn the dial and that'll bring you to your next option. Say your plant width is...
So we were right there on the 30. We hit the dial once and now we just moved over into the next box.
Then you can select that. You can select your plant width, your plant or row width. You click it again and you're good to go. And you select your plant height. And it's the same deal. Let's say it's 6 inches. Let's say it's somewhat high. Now here is where you select the number of rows you'd like the row guard to look at. There is no cut and dry, more rows is better. You know, if you have a much smaller row spacing, the camera is probably able to see a lot more rows. If you have a very wide row spacing, you gotta imagine what this thing can see. I always recommend to start out with 2 or 3 rows. And something to really keep in mind is if you want to look at an odd number of rows, you know, if you want to select in there, I want it to look at 3 rows or 5 rows, it needs to be mounted in between a row. You'll see that this camera post, the camera mount, can slide on the toolbar just like any other piece.
Yep, just with the little bolt right here, it's loosened up, and if you look down the end, it just loosens up, and then it can go that way, this way. I mean, yeah. That's and again, everybody, that's the beauty of these systems. The chopstar has the ability to be virtuous. I can't even talk anymore. This implement has the ability to go and do anything you want. Like it can go wider, narrower, deeper, shallower, and the options are, there's so many options on this thing, guys. It's hard to get into them all. I'll get into them a little bit later. We're focusing on camera setup right now, so let's get back to that.
Yeah, so like I said, you know, there is no cut and dry number of rows that's best. It somewhat depends on your row spacing. You know, if you have a 10-inch row spacing, you can view up to 8 rows. The camera can probably actually see 8 rows. However, if you have a really wide row spacing, it'll probably be more effective if you only have it look at 1 or 2 rows. I always recommend starting with 2 or 3 rows and dialing it in from there. But the important thing to remember is if you want it to look at an odd number of rows, you select an odd number of rows on your interface. It needs to be mounted directly on a plant row, like it is now. And if you'd like it to look at an even number of rows, you need to mount it directly behind one of these sweeps.
So the way it's set now, you see the shields here, guys. Here's the two shields. So this is where your corn row would be, for example, and this is where the camera's dead centered. This would be for an
odd number of rows.
An odd number of rows set up right now. And if it was set here, right in front of your depth gauge, that'd be for your even numbers. So yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind.
Just reiterating a little bit there. I'm sure we've heard that a couple times, but
so we'll
basics.
Set it to look at 3 rows. Okay, so that's your basic parameters. That's all it takes to get set up. The only next step is determining how high or low you need to set your camera. And that's determined by, this will be your manual. You'll receive one of these. It tells you a lot about what you need to know, minor troubleshooting, it teaches you about the interface. There's lots of tables and good stuff. But at the very back is your rowguard quick guide.
Okay, all right.
So this is a table that'll help you determine the height you need to set your camera at. So
speaking of cameras, there's a terrible camera shadow on there. Will that come standard? Sorry guys, I'm full of bad jokes. I just am.
So we have it at a 30-inch row spacing. So you'd come down to the center here and you'd look for 30. You go over here and you see, oh, that's for looking at 2 rows. You go down to your row spacing here. This is just centimeters and inches. So you're looking at 3 rows. You go over here and you see that you have a 30-inch spacing, and it'll tell you to set your camera at a 71-inch height, and it's important that you get it within that range. Now, the only time you go from table to table, this first table is for when your crop is between 6 and 14 inches, 13.78, and when it goes beyond that, you need to move down to this second table. So,
see up here at the top the Augie's gonna kick me out here pretty soon, but he's doing pretty good putting up with us. But yeah, that's what he's talking about as far as the plant height from the spacings go, right? Or I'm saying the plant height.
So this table is up, you use this when your plant is, below 14 inches, and you use this table when it's above 14. But it's the same principle. You just come down to the number of rows you want it to look at. You look at the row spacing. You find the closest row spacing you have, and then it'll tell you the rough camera height you need. And setting that camera height realistically it's important.
Okay. Very important. Very important, guys. I hope you got that.
Let me grab a tape measure. I should have brought one over here. I drifted away.
I think we scared him away. He's bailing on us.
I'm not coming back. You simply set it from the ground to the center of the lens here, the actual lens of the camera.
Oh yeah, there is 2 lenses in there.
Yeah.
Right, so you're going for dead center on that puppy. So from the ground, and we do have it on. I know this is going to be coming up with people. We do have it on some blocks right now because we brought it in to do this. But if it is in the field, where would you want this implement to be? Would you want it to be down in the ground, like at running depth, or would you just want to just plop it down on the ground and set it in?
Just plop it. Just plop it. You don't need to be dug in to take this depth measurement.
Okay, perfect.
And if you find, like for instance now, the camera calls to be at 71 inches, you can't get that high. You simply come down here to this bolt and you can slide the rail itself higher or lower. But the important thing is that the important thing that you need to remember, it's essential to the rowguard operating properly, is that you use that quick guide to get the proper camera height. And then you can also adjust the camera angle here on the side. Right. You can see on this side it's color coded. Sorry, I blocked it. And that's all the different angles you can choose from.
So when choosing your favorite color, do you just pick your favorite color and go for it?
No, you start with yellow. They basically always recommend yellow, and it took me a long time to understand why do they offer so many angles, but the manual and the representatives will only tell you yellow. Well, I find that experimenting with the different angles is important in rough conditions. So let's say you have your camera down very low, and you're looking at a wide number of, you have to imagine what the camera's seeing. If your crop's very, very low, and your camera's way low down here, tilting the camera angle further up so it's looking further down the row can be beneficial. Whereas if you've got really, really tall crops and it's really shaggy, you've got it way in the air, having it look straight down and focusing on fewer rows may be better.
Okay.
That's really for the other options for angles are really more for experimentation and other conditions. Just like the number of rows you want it to look at, it's something you have to get a feel for yourself, and you can't be afraid to play with it a little bit, you know? It's not so hard to change these settings.
Well, yeah, I don't know of any farmers who've never tinkered with their equipment at all. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
not what farmers ever do that I've heard of.
I know, for some reason people are afraid to play with these things. I've had customers call and ask me as if they're asking me permission, and it's like, yeah, it's your piece of equipment.
Yeah.
If you want to see what it does looking at 8 rows, go for it. It's not going to break. But just as it's important to set your row spacing, your row width, your plant height, and the number of rows you want to look at, once you've set the camera height, you have to go to this third menu here, and you have to tell it, hey, I set you
And he's dialing in right there.
at 71 inches. Like I said, it's a really good employee, but you need to tell it. You need to tell it that I've set your camera at this height. Then if you change the angle as well, you can come down here. It'll open this menu if you click on it and tell it the angle you have it set at. Now in this menu, I won't go too deep today. This is really all you should need to know to get started.
Okay, and just in case they can't see it, when you said the angle we have set in here, in case you guys can't see that, this here is the angle one, and it's showing 30 degrees B color yellow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that on the GoPro on the back side. It's kind of showing it, but just in case. Important thing. Okay.
Absolutely. And these down here, if you have a xenon light kit and you have it plugged in, you can optionally turn that on and off. The rowguard will make noises, so you can turn that on and off. And that's for setting a dual offset. You can turn that option on and off.
And like that is a speaker for the sound. Here's your dual offset, on and off. And what is a dual offset? That's so as you're going, say on a side hill and a slope, and you want that thing nudged over to the left an inch or something like that, you can set that. Right?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So it does have that option. I don't want to say you'll need it or you won't need it, but I mean, we got a camera guidance system here, guys, like that's already dialed in the middle of the row. If you are having to go a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right.
So most of the time people use it is when they're on a hill and they don't have enough stability and it's kind of drifting. So basically what you do is, I know there's all these symbols. These middle symbols that look like a ruler. It's the same up here. Let's say you want it to go 2 inches to the right or 2 inches to the left. You'd simply press this button until you get where you'd like to go. Then you press this button here. That's that same symbol from the other menu. And once you do that, every time you raise the implement and it triggers this switch, it'll know to flip back and forth.
How nice is that, right?
And if you don't want a dual offset, if you just want to set it one way and you don't want it to be automatic, you just come here and turn it off. If you'd like to clear the offset setting or if you're done using it.
And there, that little box, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an X inside of there, and then there's not an X. And so that little box right there is just ignition or not. Like,
Yeah.
it's
you'll
so
see-
simple.
When that's not activated, you don't have that option there any longer. So
Nice, easy.
just turn that to 0 and you're good. Another quick caveat is this is simply your camera quality, how good it's seeing. The reason it's 0 right now is because it's looking at a shop floor. What the rowguard looks for is green, brown, and height on these models.
What's it at now? I've got a brown boot down there.
You got a little flicker, like 5%. So if you get into an area where there is a lot of grass and it can't see the row very well, you'll be able to see the camera quality drop. And occasionally camera quality will drop if it's really dusty or if you didn't set the angle tight enough and it fell or if the connection's not even that strong. And if
Okay.
there's ever an interruption to the connection, you'll experience you'll see a little symbol down here.
In this lower
Left corner.
left-hand corner, and that's as you're out there moving, hammering down,
Yeah.
going. So there you go. If you're ever out farming, cultivating, taking care of weeds business, And what kind of symbol will pop up in there?
It'll be a camera with an X through it. That's just to let you know that the camera's lost signal.
Okay, so there you go.
And there's other things that'll pop up, but those are things you'll become familiar with. You know, when you first start, it'll show a turtle here in the middle, and that just simply means you're not moving fast enough. That speed sensor's not moving. But I'll show you now just how to get started.
Come on, Bessie.
Once you've put in your parameters, your row spacing, your row width, all that good stuff, once you've determined where you need to set the camera and you've set it, you've told the row guard that, you're ready to go.
Perfect.
You press this A with the steering wheel, and a stop sign will come up.
Let me get that in here real quick. So that was an A before it turned to stop.
So I'll turn it off for you really quick.
Okay, perfect.
That's how it looks when it's not running. When you want it to go, you press that button, and a stop sign will show up. And so long as that stop sign is showing, it means that it's trying to operate. You'll see that turtle here, which just means that you're not moving fast enough. And this is just letting you know that the hydraulics are trying to work. So,
and the reason that says stop is because imagine if you're out there going, you know, farming and cultivating and taking care of weeds, and all of a sudden you need to stop. I mean, yeah, that's where you push it, is the stop sign. So clearly, for most people, stop means stop. For some people, it just means kind of stop. But with the row guard, it means stop.
It means stop. And another thing to note is that the other good thing about this sensor is that anytime you raise the implement, it'll bring it back to center and it'll stop trying to operate. So there's several safeguards, you know, namely the speed sensor and that third link sensor. Now the last thing I'm going to show you guys today, because really you should be going at that point. It truly is that simple. If you've set all your values correctly, if you're you don't have an insane amount of weed pressure, you know, it needs to be able to see the rows. You've set all those parameters, you've properly set your camera height, all of your connections are tight, you're getting a proper hydraulic flow of 15 liters per minute.
Which is not that much.
Not that much. You press that and you're going.
So you press A and you're ready to farm.
And you're going. You start driving, and as soon as that speed sensor picks up you're moving, you're going. The only other thing I'd like to show you is how to manually move this thing, which is sometimes useful for troubleshooting, and occasionally if you need to blind cultivate, you can make live adjustments. So I need to hold down this hydraulic manifold. If I press that, you'll see that it's moving.
Here, hang on a sec, guys. We gotta showcase how flexible you are.
Yeah.
Here, maybe.
Tilt shift unit move because it's not hitched to the tractor and the implement's not in the air.
It's right here. See how it's moving, guys? Let's skedaddle into the left and the right. We are extended. So right now the unit would be extended all the way to the left of the tractor. And coming back center, or opposite
you can
direction.
manually center it as well.
Boom. And does it, when you want to manually center it, is it just one button?
Yeah.
Brings it right back to dead center?
Yeah. So these buttons that I showed you for setting a dual offset, above it you'll see this icon with a tractor and a left arrow. That's to move to the left, that's to move to the right, and up here, right in the top left corner, that's how you manually center it if you ever need to.
This button, right? Well, it'd be this button, but that's what he's looking at. So, again, pretty darn simple. You know, and I understand how it's confusing for a lot of people that haven't done this before or experienced it. They're like, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? But it's just like farming. When you get out there and you do it 2 laps, you're going to be dialed in. So don't feel overwhelmed by the technology that this thing has to offer, because it's so simple. It's just, I don't want to say it's foolproof, but it's a lot easier than you think.
The only words of wisdom I'd have is that, you know, I didn't come from either an agricultural or a technological background. I was very intimidated by all of this sort of stuff when I first started, you know. I really questioned whether or not I'd be able to figure this stuff out. And I was just amazed at how simple it really is when you understand the things that need to be there. You know, the camera, the speed sensor, your hydraulic flow, you know, clean connections. It's actually quite simple to use.
So I'm going to go through, and while I got number one tech guy here, I'm going to ask him a few questions that I think other farmers would be asking. You know, like how easy is this thing to work on? What breaks on it? Like what am I going to have? What are going to be the issues with this thing down the road? You know, and if you do have issues, one of them might be like the potentiometer, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's called, going back. And that's the trigger mechanism that is firing your hydraulics back and forth. There's really not a lot of moving parts on this thing besides what your standard cultivators have. And one of the electronic components is right here under this box. Super easy to get to, very accessible. He's digging in there now.
Well, this is the hydraulic manifold I'm going to show you. The potentiometer is a little further back in here. But the important thing to remember is that, well, mechanically I've never had an issue. I had one person who didn't grease this ever break a bushing. But I've never had anything mechanical or hydraulically break in these things. Never. Simply the manifold and the solenoid under here. You can access it very easily. Got to give it a little love tap.
So there you go, toolless access, and you're right there into some of the guts and the heart of the operation.
Yeah, and on older models, there were two key electronic components inside. There was the linear potentiometer, which is like a big cylinder. You can see it from this side here.
Can we get in there? Oh yeah.
Right there. And that tells the machine where it is, you know. Very occasionally, that needs to be calibrated, but that's a very, very simple process. You can do it from your monitor. And the other thing, the other main electrical component was called a signal conditioner, which was in a box under here. But now, the signal conditioner and the linear potentiometer have been combined into one part.
Oh, nice.
You know, I've only ever seen 2 fail in years, and one guy pressure washed his implement, so I'm kind of hesitant to say it failed. But there isn't a lot in here that can go wrong, either electronically or mechanically, and it's not a rocket, you know.
So when we are power washing this thing off, where is it that we need to watch out for? Like, if you could advise us, where should we keep the water away from? I mean, obviously electronic components, right?
I can't recommend power washing the tilt shift unit at all.
Okay.
Me as a technician, I can't recommend power hosing your baby. I would do it the old-fashioned car wash way if you can. You know, try and keep it clean. And
these solenoids here, what kind of parts do you carry for the rowguard on hand, like right now?
Oh, we carry, well, like I said, the main electrical components are the signal conditioner and linear potentiometer, which are one part. We always have those in stock. There's one interconnected wiring harness that connects the solenoids and all of the sensors in here.
Okay.
That's relatively simple to replace. We keep the entire wiring harness on hand always. We have replacement camera cables, replacement speed sensor cables, replacement speed sensors. We have replacement video monitors. We have replacement manifolds. We have replacement solenoids. Well, that's really part of the wiring harness. We have replacement filters, which you almost never go through. You know, most people aren't getting a ton of stuff in their hydraulic fluid.
Yeah. And how often would you advise swapping filters out on one of these as far as an hour basis goes?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I've never seen one have to be replaced.
Okay.
There's an indicator on here.
Oh, nice.
It'll tell you when it needs to be replaced. When it's under pressure, it'll show a little red line, and once that red line is full, when it's being operated, that's when you know it needs to be replaced.
Okay.
In 3 years, I haven't seen one need to be replaced. We carry them on hand, simple enough to replace, but...
Pretty darn easy to get to, for sure.
Oh, we carry replacement of these, the third link sensor. We carry replacement pins. We carry...
So it sounds like anything that could potentially wear out, break, go wrong, he's got you covered.
Yeah, we try our best to I wouldn't call these wearing parts. We try to do our best to always keep wearing parts in stock and anything that you might need that may be critical. Einbock is very responsive about air freighting us emergency parts, but we've tried to be in a position where that's never necessary.
Nice. And as you will see too, I do have some... I'm terrible at pointing the camera in the right way. Sorry, guys. But I do have some video of the actual accessories and the backup supplies and parts in case we ever do need them. So there's just an endless amount of support behind this machine. It's not just the potential tools that you can get here in America that's sitting on the shelf waiting for you to call, say, hey, yeah, I need this part, boom, it's shipped to you. You got amazing staff like Augie here, ready to get right there in the dirty and take care of whatever you need to do. And me too. I mean, there's a lot of sales staff out there that is really educated on this machine. And I mean, it's just, if you're going to be farming in between rows, anything narrow, they got you covered. It's right here. I don't know what else to say awesome about this machine other than the fact that it does so much. It's infinitely variable. Is there anything else you want to say about it?
Well, honestly, like not even from an agricultural or a technological standpoint, when you've got the thing really dialed in, when you really understand how to use it, and all the conditions are right, when this, I should say, when you're rolling and this thing starts working for the first time, for you, it's really cool. It's really just an awesome thing to see. It makes me happy to see. There's videos online where you can see them operating, and it's cool to see that, but I'm telling you, when you're in your tractor and you look behind and you see that thing guiding itself, it's really cool. And the only other important things I have to say is that, you know, it's not just me behind John or Farm Power behind me. I have all of Einbock behind me. They're incredibly responsive, they're incredibly easy to work with, and they really care about everybody having a good experience. So as good of a tech as I am, it's not just me. I've got all of Einbock behind me, and that feels pretty good. And I think that should make you guys feel good too. So
absolutely, you know, and for anybody who's out there who's kind of on the fence about quality on these things, it's unquestionable. These machines are built so solid. You know, before I ever saw it, some of the things I was kind of curious about was how much play are in these things back here. You know, if I'm running down my narrow rows, there's not. I mean, I am cranking on this thing like there's hardly any play in there. These shields, they have bearings built into them. For the rollers, they're infinitely adjustable. The shields are. You can dial these things in with just a couple cranks for the depth that you want to be running. Gosh, it goes on and on. The locks. If you want to pick one of these things up,
here, I'll lower it for you. You gotta just turn that down there.
Yeah, see what he's doing. So, you ready?
And you can just.
There he goes. Yeah, so I mean, an easy locking mechanism. So say I'm out in the field and I want to lock it up. Augie, can you swing that thing around the other position for us real quick?
Absolutely.
Thanks. Hiya cha. There you go.
Sorry, because I'm not on the same level. But yeah, it's that simple.
It is pretty easy to raise and lower these things, lock them up, do what you need to do to them. So adjustable, guys. Just the adjustments are endless. These here are tires. You see tires, you can get those with the coulters built into them. Oh gosh, what else can I show you on these things? I'm sure I'm missing so many things, but it's one of those deals that you see and you just kind of stop looking at them because you see it so much. But here's for your finger weeders. They just attach right on the back of the rowguard and kick all the way out. These are set up right now a little tight because the room in here is a little tight, but you want to have them set so they're just kind of barely touching the ground and flipping up kind of flat like that to knock the weeds out in between in the rows. Sorry, but I'm just trying to look at things that I may have missed.
These are easy to pull out of the way if you're at the beginning of the season.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a little, you know, your plants are a little too small. You just pick them up like that and push them out of the way. You don't have to remove anything.
An easy plop and no more finger weeders on your plants. But
and all this variability isn't at the sacrifice of quality either, or at the sacrifice of strength and rigidity. You know, you can see these things are built really strong.
very heavily built.
They're the heaviest light cultivator on the market.
I'm just gonna I'm gonna run down from one side to the other and just let you guys kind of pick this thing apart. So here we go. other models of the rowguard. This here is a 500.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and when you're looking at rowguard, so this here is the 500 model. It's a little bit lighter. That can go into the category 2, options. They go up to the 500 HD.
Yes, sir.
Is the bigger Cat 3 super for your bigger like 12 row stuff. I believe a 12 row, this could handle a 12 row, but you'd probably want to go with an HD.
There's the 500, then there's the SR, which is more for 10, 12 rows and above. Then the HD, I mean, people have custom built 45, 50 row cultivators and used the HDs, so you'll almost never need to use the HDs. Those things are crazy huge. But
wait a minute. How many rows did you say?
Something like 40 or 50 rows. We had somebody order like 55 of these. I don't believe they ended up using all of them, and they built their own frame. Then they used the HD on that thing.
50 some plus.
Seemed like an odd number of rows to me, but
hey, for you 50 rowers guys out there, we can still take care of you. So yeah, just tape measures not included, sorry. There you have it, everybody. I think we pretty much wrapped that up. I don't know what else to tell you other than if you've been sitting on the fence, hop off, come grab one of these, get it for a spin, give me a call. My information will be here down at the bottom or somewhere in this video, I'm sure, afterwards. But again, I'm John Olson. This here is we've been calling him Augie lately.
yeah.
But yeah, give old Augie a call if you have some serious technical questions that this video couldn't have helped you out with. But you got to keep in mind he's a busy guy too, taking care of, well, he's been building these things like crazy because they're just rolling out the door. And I'll show you another video of how much equipment that we have ready to go to take care of the United States this year. And it's going to look like a lot, guys, but I guarantee you it's going, and it's some pieces you need to call now to get that order in so we can get it to you on time, or potentially even next growing season. I don't know what your situation is right now, but don't hesitate. These things, they're game changers. They have been changing farms the second they're put in the dirt. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. So don't be afraid to come check them out. Give me a call, whatever. We're just here to help. He's the best. So
Thanks for watching, guys.
yeah, thanks. See ya.